Hope you enjoy listening to the story. After 7 years of marriage, my husband Too Thin fell in love with a new employee of the company named Lam Noyet. He said after meeting her, he knew what true love was. Because of that so-called love, he didn't care if Lam Noyet was angry or if I was seriously ill. He even had the heart to let our 4-year-old daughter be locked in the car until she suffocated. In utter despair, I drove straight into Too Thin and Lam Noyet, killing them all together. Opening my eyes again, I found myself 7 years back, right at Too Thin and my wedding. The MC had just finished reading the wedding vows when he asked, "Mr. Too Thin, do you agree to marry Ms. Tam Nok Lam from now on? Whether poor or rich, whether sick or healthy, to love and respect each other, never to leave or abandon each other, to be together forever?" Too Thin was stunned for a moment, then suddenly shook my hand away and coldly replied, "I do not agree." I lowered my head, hiding the emotions that were surging in my eyes. How fitting. I also didn't want the whole hall to suddenly become noisy. The guests didn't expect such a thing to happen at the wedding. They were all gossiping. The MC laughed stiffly, completely unable to predict that the groom who had just appeared happy would suddenly change his attitude. He paused for a few seconds, then quickly changed the subject. "Haha, the groom seems a bit nervous. Let's all listen to a song and give him some time to adjust his mood." The music started. The MC kept making eye contact, hoping we could quickly reconcile. "At least don't make us laugh in front of the guests." He meant well, but Too Thin was not grateful, grabbed the microphone and said, "Sorry for wasting everyone's time. Today's wedding is cancelled. I hereby declare that even if all the women in the world die, I will not wait to marry Tam Nok Lam." He looked at me, his eyes filled with disgust. "Tam Nok Lam, don't even dream of being my wife in this life." After saying that, he threw down the microphone and walked off the stage with a smug look on his face. However, he forgot that this wasn't 7 years later. He was not the CEO that everyone praised. Before he could even step off the stage, a figure rushed over like the wind, extinguishing his image. "If you have the ability, say it again. Do you think our family is easy to bully?" The woman was wearing a bright red cheongsam, with exquisite makeup and a wedding flower pinned to her chest. She was clearly a member of the bride's family. She was still angry when she turned off the light, but before Too Thin could recover, she turned off another light. "My dear husband, back then you were the devil who came down to ask for my hand in marriage, and now you've shown your true form? And what about women all over the world? You think you're the emperor, you can choose whoever you want." The scolding like a shower woke up the people around you, and they quickly stepped forward to stop you. It's just that I don't know if it was intentional or not, but while tying her up, Too Thin was kicked a few more times. Looking at my aunt's spirited expression, I finally couldn't hold back anymore, and called out in a sweet voice, "Auntie, can you hear me?" My aunt, who was preparing to roll up her sleeves and rush into battle, immediately turned around, hugged me tightly, and gently comforted me. "Ling Ling, don't cry. It's better if you don't marry that bastard. I don't want to marry him either. Don't be sad. I'll introduce you to someone much better in the future." Leaning my head on my aunt's chest, listening to her strong heartbeat ringing in my ears, tears flowed like a waterfall. My lips trembled, but I couldn't say a word. It had been a long time since I had seen someone this healthy and vibrant. When I was 4 years old, my parents died in an accident. My aunt was only in her early 20s at the time, and adopted me without hesitation. She even broke up with her first love for me, and has never remarried since then. I gave up my stable job to start a business with Too Thin. My aunt scolded us for being thoughtless, but behind our backs she always helped us in secret. When we were in a crisis and almost went bankrupt, it was my aunt who sold the house, worked selflessly, and overcame everything with us. She loved me and had also helped Too Thin a lot. Yet that heartless bastard brought the Mistress Lam Noyet song into my aunt's hospital room, exposing everything without any hesitation, making my aunt so angry that she died on the spot. Even when I confronted them, he bluntly said, "She's so sick, she'll die even if she lives late. It's just a matter of helping her get out of this quickly." Luckily, I was revived. Right now, she's still healthy, alive and well right in front of me. How lucky, how lucky. I wiped my tears, looked at Too Thin and asked, "Too Thin, are you sure you want to cancel the engagement?" Probably because I cried too much just now, my eyes were still red, my voice was hoarse, and I looked like I had just been deeply hurt. Everyone around me looked at Too Thin with anger and reproach. There was also a flash of pity in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "Tam Nok Lam, break off the engagement. Don't drag it out anymore, it's embarrassing." I held on to the person who wanted to punch him and lowered my eyes, hiding my true feelings. "Okay, let's cancel the engagement." I wanted to see, without me, how could Too Thin bring the company to the top in this life? How could he be a couple with his true love? Too Thin and I were university classmates. We started dating in our second year. It was our first love. After graduating, Too Thin worked for half a year, then had a conflict with his boss, decided to quit his job to start a business. His parents divorced when he was young, each had their own family. After he grew up, he almost ignored it. He even paid for his college tuition by borrowing money and working part-time. He quit his job to start a business, and his family couldn't help him at all. I felt sorry for him, so I quit my job to build a career with him. I don't do technical stuff, but I do my best to help with other things. From 3 meals a day to organizing documents to keeping accounting books. I take care of all the big and small things in their small studio by myself, and I'm busy all day. Because of overwork, I lost my first child. At that time, Too Thin knelt by my hospital bed, crying uncontrollably. Lin, I swear I will definitely succeed, to make you the happiest woman in the world." He kept half of that vow, but not the other half. In the 3rd year of starting his business, his small studio started to get on track, and he proposed to me. Although we encountered many crises after that, we both got through it together. The studio gradually developed into a company. The scale grew larger and larger. His work also became busier and busier. Later, when our daughter was born, I gradually devoted all my energy to the family, no longer participating in company affairs. Even some new employees did not know that I was the boss. Too Thin also gradually became cold towards me, no longer caring like before. I was a little sad but didn't think too much about it. On the contrary, I felt sorry for him and tried to take care of everything at home. Until our 7th wedding anniversary, he only called once to say he was busy with extra work. Then there was no contact at all. I sat there watching the dinner gradually get cold. My heart also felt cold. I started investigating the people around him. I didn't expect it to be so easy because he didn't hide anything at all. A woman named Lam Noyet. He took her to all kinds of luxurious places, took her to parties with his partners, and introduced her to his friends. The two of them were so close that they were stuck together, and they had something to talk about every day. People around them teased Lam Noyet as his sister-in-law, but he just smiled and never denied it. I told him to keep his distance, but he said I was petty, ignorant, and had nothing to do, full of frustration and anger. Discovering that he had changed his mind, I secretly sought out a lawyer and asked how to protect my rights and gain custody of my daughter. I thought the worst I could do was leave empty-handed with my child, but I never expected him to be so cruel. In the middle of the hot summer, my fever wouldn't go away, and I was having severe stomach pains from my period, so I asked Too Thin to take my child to Vietnam. He agreed very quickly, but because of a phone call from Lam Noyet, he changed the destination. The two men and women met and immediately clung to each other like glue, lovingly caressing each other, forgetting about the child in the car. It wasn't until I called to ask about my daughter that he suddenly remembered his original purpose and ran out to sea. It was too late. From then on, I went crazy, vowing to make them pay dearly. At first, Too Thin still felt guilty. Then he gave up everything, completely revealing his true face to Lam Noyet. I hated him to the core, but I still had to pretend like nothing happened. Because at that time I already had terminal stomach cancer, I didn't want to cause any more worries in my final days. Too Thin clearly promised not to let our grudges affect anything, but under Lam Noyet's instigation, when I was not home, he took her straight to my hospital room. The two of them intended to use provocation to force me to give in, but unexpectedly, upon hearing the news of Tam Tam's death and my betrayal, I immediately died on the spot. Even though I later killed those two people, every time I recalled what happened in my previous life, my heart was still filled with resentment, unable to shake off the pan. Living again, can we erase all hatred? No, at least I can't. Too Thin and I were university classmates, and we also accompanied each other throughout our career journey, and had many mutual friends. They didn't know about the hatred between Too Thin and me in our previous life. They only saw him go crazy at the wedding, kicking his longtime girlfriend away without mercy. Immediately, all around me were curses calling Too Thin a scum and sympathizing with me. I pretended to be miserable, stayed home for 2 days to organize the documents, then brought a few friends straight to Too Thin's studio. As soon as I entered the door, I was shocked by the mess and filth inside. The floor was littered with garbage, the table was full of half-eaten lunch boxes, and the air was filled with an indescribable smell. I glanced around and asked the nearest person, "Where was Too Thin?" I forced a smile. "Sister-in-law came to find Mr. Thin?" "Sister-in-law, I dare not accept it." I laughed coldly, my voice was cold. I asked again, "Where is Mr. Thin? I have something to say to him, tell him to come out here." Chan Chan retracted his neck, glancing at the people around him as if asking for help. The studio wasn't big except for Too Thin. There were 6 people, all of whom had attended the wedding ceremony that day. They looked at each other for a while, and finally a man wearing a semi-casual shirt, with dark circles under his eyes, stood up to answer. "On Thin has gone out and is not here now." "Fourth uncle." I searched my memory and finally remembered this person's name. In my previous life, he left the company in the 5th year after Too Thin and I got married, saying it was because of differences in opinions. At that time I no longer went to the company often, but because we had gone through hardships together, when I heard that he was leaving, I still called him to invite him to dinner. He refused, only saying one sentence over the phone. "Sister Lin Lin, you are a good person. I just have one piece of advice for you. Too Thin is a piece of trash, you should be careful." At that time I thought he said that because he had an argument with Too Thin. Later I realized maybe he had seen through that person's true nature. I took a deep breath and calmed my voice. "I have something very important to tell Too Thin. Can you guys help call him back?" Tran Tran immediately replied, "Okay. Sister-in-law, wait a moment, I'll call Mr. Thin right away." I frowned slightly but didn't remind him to change the way he addressed me. The phone had just rang a few times when Thin's voice came from the other end. "Hello. Tran. What's up? Brother Thin, your sister-in-law is here to see you." Before she could finish her sentence, the other side hung up several times, leaving Tran Tran with a stiff face and an awkward smile. "That? Mr. Thin must be busy." I interrupted. "No need to explain. It's okay if he's not here today, you guys help me pass on the message. The money I invested in the studio, plus the salary he still owes me, collect enough to pay back immediately. I only give him 2 days. If he doesn't pay, I'll ask the court to settle it." When the studio first opened, there were many difficulties. I gave him all my savings, even borrowed money to invest, helped Too Thin manage everything, never asked for a single penny in wages. At that time he hugged me and whispered, "Having a wife like you, I could not ask for anything more." Now that I think about it, I feel so stupid. Tran Tran was shocked and a little panicked. "Don't be, sister-in-law, the studio is still fine. Why do you need money so urgently?" Concerning personal interests, the others also started to speak up to advise. "Sister-in-law, don't be angry. Wait for Mr. Thin to come back and then you two can talk slowly. Don't make hasty decisions on impulse. That's right, you two have loved each other for so many years. Don't make a fuss over such a small matter. That's right, even if there is a conflict, don't take the studio out of anger. Everyone around us is trying to speak up. On the surface it's to advise, but in reality it's blaming me for not knowing what's important. I know this studio is the heart and soul of the whole group. Me asking for money at this time will put more pressure on them. But I have no obligation to care about them. They call me sister-in-law, but in the end, they are still Too Thin's friends. In the previous life, when Too Thin and Lam Noyet were secretly having an affair as people in the company and Too Thin's friends, they more or less knew, but no one said a word to me. If that's the case, then why should I give them face? Don't say those words to me, just pass them on to Too Thin. After all, he'll have more headaches in the future. Xinyulin, what do you want to do? As soon as he picked up the phone, Su Sheng roared angrily. You know, we recently invested money to change equipment, and the money for the new project hasn't been collected yet. What do you mean by asking for money now? So what? I said coldly. What does your studio have to do with me? The other end of the line choked up. His voice softened. Tam Nok Lam, I know you're angry about the broken engagement, but you can't use the studio as a place to vent your anger, right? It's not easy for us to build this together, and I also promised everyone that we'll give out bonuses at the end of this month. I interrupted angrily. Too thin, you just need to say one thing, pay or not pay. Otherwise I will sue you. Don't come back and blame me for not warning you when you get the summons. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment, then his voice dropped. Are you really that heartless? There is no more affection between us. Don't care about your friends in the studio? Affection? Too thin probably still thinks I'm still the soft-hearted, naive Tam Nok Lam like before, thinks I'm angry because the engagement was broken off, so he wants to use morality to gradually torture me. What kind of affection is there between us? Is it the affection of me sharing the same hardships as you, only to be humiliated by you at the wedding? Too thin probably remembered what he did when I was first reborn, and was momentarily speechless. If he mentioned that I stabbed him to death in his previous life, people would definitely think he was crazy, and wouldn't have a reasonable excuse for it. He sighed, his voice tired. Can you give me more time? Trust me, the studio will definitely make money, and I'll pay you double then. No, I was very firm. I didn't mean to make any profit from him anyway. I just wanted to annoy him. Seeing that I didn't soften, Too thin just left a sentence, consider yourself good, and hung up. Actually, even if I were to forcefully demand that money back, it wouldn't be enough to immediately collapse his studio, but it would still be possible to make them suffer for a while. I'll take this opportunity to think of a way to break the contracts he can earn. Thinking so, I immediately called my aunt. Auntie, about Too Thin's studio rent, you and Uncle Chu should tell them not to rent it cheaply anymore. Why do I need to remind you? Don't worry, my aunt told me earlier. If I had known I wouldn't have helped, it would have been a waste of time and money. The first year the studio opened, Too Thin had almost no money, couldn't find a place to work, and was even told by the broker that if he didn't have money, then he shouldn't hire him. I secretly asked my aunt for help, through a friend named Chu that she knew from her sales job, to rent the current location at a price lower than the market price. Because I didn't want to hurt Too Thin's pride, I didn't say that I helped, but blamed it on the landlord loving him because he was talented. Brave neck. Now that I think about it, I really don't know what kind of stupid water was in my head at that time. I shook my head vigorously, as if to get rid of all those thoughts, then acted spoiled. Auntie was really majestic. Oh, by the way, Andy, let's go for a health checkup. Go for a checkup? Lin, are you feeling unwell somewhere? No, it's just that I haven't had a general checkup for a long time. Auntie, come with me. Oh, this little girl fell. Okay, you make an appointment, just call me when the time comes. After finishing the call, I let out a sigh of relief. In this life, I will seriously remind my aunt to pay attention to her health, absolutely not letting her make the same mistake as in her previous life. In this life, we will definitely live well. After that, Too Thin came to apologize to me again, and even asked some mutual friends of both of us to come to my house to act as mediators. I was unmoved, and bluntly gave him an ultimatum. He asked me to spend some time in the studio to talk properly. I was immediately alert. Many people secretly followed for a few days, but unexpectedly discovered a huge melon. Recently, Too Thin often went to a high school, and even had intimate behavior with a female student. As soon as I saw the photo, I immediately recognized that the female student was Lam Noyet. At that moment, I didn't know whether to praise Too Thin for his loyalty or curse him for being full of lust. Lam Noyet was 8 years younger than him, and at that time she was still not mature. I immediately asked someone to collect more evidence to prove their ambiguous relationship, and then brought a few tall and muscular bodyguards to the appointment with Too Thin. When I arrived at the studio, it was dark inside without a single light, suspiciously quiet. Too Thin, where are you? I carefully stopped at the door and signaled for the bodyguards to go in first. The bodyguard nodded and slowly walked inside. Within seconds, the sound of chairs and tables falling and people screaming could be heard from inside. Oh, who are you? Hurry up and help. With a bang, the lights turned on, illuminating the scene before them. Too Thin was pinned to the ground by the bodyguards, his hands locked behind his back. The others in the studio were fumbling with their guns and trying to get them off. Seeing me, his eyes lit up. Sister-in-law, he was about to run over, but when he saw the muscular bodyguards beside me, he stopped and asked in a small voice, Sister-in-law, did you bring these people here? I ignored him, crossed my arms and coldly watched Too Thin being pinned to the ground. Why did you call me here? Too Thin couldn't get out, so he could only lower his voice. Lynn, what do you mean? I should be the one asking you this. If I had walked in myself, then I would be the one pressed to the ground right now, right? Sister-in-law misunderstood. Thin just wanted to surprise her. Chan immediately interrupted to explain, pointing to the cake and decorations in the room. Thin wanted to celebrate her birthday and make peace at the same time. I signaled the bodyguard to release Thin. He quickly stood up, adjusted his clothes and smiled awkwardly. I'm sorry, Lin, for making you misunderstand. I just remembered that today is your birthday and wanted to make it special for you. Between his eyebrows was a look of sadness. The corners of his lips smiled helplessly. His whole person exuded the air of a pitiful person who had been let down. I have to say his acting was really not bad. Crack, crack, crack. I clapped my hands and sneered. Thin, I didn't realize your acting skills were this good before. It would be a waste of talent not to become an actor. He remained silent and did not respond. His friends began to speak up for him. Sister-in-law, just like that is not right. Do you know how hard Thin worked to prepare for his birthday? Which couple doesn't argue? You two have been in love for so many years, why don't you give him a chance? Thin did wrong, but you're not entirely right. Isn't he working so hard because he wants to take care of your future? It's normal for emotions to flare up. Enough. Thin loudly stopped me, looking at me sadly. Don't say any more, I'm sorry to Lin. His group of friends wanted to say something more, but I just needed to give a slight signal to the bodyguards, and immediately a few tall men in black stepped forward, their intimidating stance instantly silencing the noisy crowd. I walked to the table, casually pulled down a piece of decoration and laughed coldly. You really did me wrong. What you called your heart prepared for me were those cheap and ugly decorations and a casual cake. Or was it that disgusting fake face of yours? Without waiting for Thin to reply, I continued. Are you feeling so noble? For the studio, you have to endure and flatter your ex-girlfriend whom you hate so much. You really know how to swallow your pride and endure, how funny. Thin's muscles tensed, his eyes were burning with anger. I heard him clearly, no need to yell. I glanced at him, pulled up a chair, sat down and spoke calmly. Thin, don't play around with me. I'll be blunt, Pei. Or else see you in court. I can't guarantee whether your studio will be affected by that time. Several people in the studio looked at me with hatred. I raised my hand and pointed at one of them. Hey, are you dissatisfied with me? The other person didn't expect to be pointed at, awkwardly turning away. What's wrong with me taking back my money? Or is it that I lent you money when you were in trouble? You're all ungrateful. Someone couldn't help but scream. We don't bite the hand that feeds us. Not for sure. You should ask your conscience. I treated you guys so badly these past 3 years. Where you ate, where you slept, I took care of everything. I was even more considerate than your mother. And what was the result? I was broken off by that scumbag next to you, humiliated on my wedding day. And in the end it was still my fault? You guys are really good at twisting black into white, no wonder you all have the same type of friends. Speaking of this, my emotions began to surge. Although I had already realized in the previous clip that these people were no good, when I had to face them directly, I still felt sorry for myself back then. Perhaps still having some shame, the whole group finally bit their faces. Seeing no one speaking up to defend him, Thin stepped out again. Lin, I know you're angry, but don't take it out on an innocent person. I burst out laughing angrily. Thin, your ability to rush is getting better and better. I don't want to argue with you. Just one last question, pay or not? If not, I'll leave and let the court decide. Lin, why are you? 1, don't be so unreasonable. 2, 3, if you don't want to talk, then don't. Let's go. I signaled the bodyguards to leave. Before I could step out the door, Thin called me back. I break up. Is that good? Give me the money. Not today. Me catching my cold gaze, he immediately changed his words. Tomorrow I will manage. By tomorrow night at the latest, I will transfer it to you. Including the salary of the past few years, you must pay me clearly. He gritted his teeth. Don't worry, I will pay for every penny owed. I made him repeat his commitment to pay and recorded it, then led the people away. Before walking out, he looked at me somewhat sympathetically. You weren't like this before. Humph, I laughed coldly. Thin, stop acting, be careful your girlfriend gets jealous. As soon as the words fell, everyone in the room turned to look at him in surprise. Too Thin immediately denied. What are you talking about? I don't have a girlfriend. It seems like he knows he's doing something shady, so he still doesn't dare tell these people about Lam Noi yet. I don't need to save face for him. Not a girlfriend to cuddle with. Not a girlfriend to go to a hotel together. So what is she? Not. No. I didn't. Even if she denied it, his reaction said it all. The people who had wanted to advise me earlier were all silent. I took one last look at the studio decorated with balloons and fried paper, and didn't look back. Too Thin, next time I try to cheat someone, I'll give you copper coins. Tam Tam's daughter and I were born 3 days apart after we got married. I was too lazy to organize anything, so I only had a birthday party for her. At first, Too Thin still remembered to give me a present on the right day. Later, he made both mother and daughter a cake, and then to the point where he was so engrossed in his work with Lam Noi that he even forgot Tam Tam's birthday. What about my birthday? Maybe Too Thin remembered 7 years ago. But 7 years later he had completely forgotten. Too Thin paid on time, not a single cent less, and even sent a special message saying let's break up peacefully. I don't know if he was afraid that I would spoil it or if I would expose the matter between him and Lam Noi yet. As soon as I received the money, I immediately implemented the next step of the plan. It was still early. His studio had a bit of a reputation, but it would take a year for it to really take off thanks to policies and opportunities. During this period, I took on almost all the odd jobs in the studio, including connecting with customers. In other words, I held most of the contact information with customers. With memories from my previous life, I even knew potential customers. I took this information as an insider tip, quietly providing it to those who needed it to both build relationships and divert customers away from Zisheng's studio. Because he had to pay me, the bonus he had promised his employees would definitely go up in smoke. If he couldn't get any more contracts, even paying his salary would be a problem. The people in the studio were Zisheng's friends, but even real brothers should be clear about money matters. If they couldn't make money, would they still want to follow him to the end? Even if they did, would their families let them tie themselves to a sinking boat? I've been their mother for 3 years, and now I have no more responsibilities, but spreading some half-true, half-false rumors to influence their families is still within my ability. What about Zisheng? Having been the general manager for several years now, would he still be willing to lower himself to find customers and negotiate contracts? Would he be able to work with people who would definitely turn their backs on him in the future? And would he still be mentally calm? As for Lin Yu, that was a problem he created himself. An adult dating a minor girl, even without me doing anything, society would condemn it. I secretly revealed this to Lam Noyet's family. They also came to the studio to cause a ruckus. But in the end, they were still coaxed by Too Thin, who even pretended to be happy, acting as if he was about to accept him as a son-in-law. I don't feel sorry at all. What kind of decent person can a family that is willing to let their underage daughter date an adult just for money? If Zisheng shows any sign of financial collapse, they will immediately turn around and seize him, demanding every last penny from him. I am very patient, digging holes little by little, only to let that entire castle collapse. In the 4th month after his resurrection, Zisheng's studio lost 2 employees due to late payments. He tried to keep them, but one of them spoke out. Brother Shang, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I also have to think about my family. If I stay here, if I accept a project and still can't make money, how will I pay off the house and car loans? My wife is about to give birth 7 months already. How many expenses will I have to worry about in the future? Should I let them live on air? Want to know how I know about this? I have to mention the second person who left. Uncle Tu, what do you want to see me about? Uncle Tu was still wearing his familiar semi-casual shirt. His eyes were dark as if someone had drawn them. He hugged his coffee cup, a bit embarrassed. Sister Lin Lin, I want to apologize for what happened when you came to the studio that day. I really didn't know that Mr. Thin was having an affair. I thought he really wanted to get back together with you. Okay, stop rambling. I waved my hand. Let's talk about the main topic. He lowered his head to take a sip of coffee, glanced at me, then looked down. Sister Lin Lin, can you lend me some money? Borrow money? I was a little surprised. Why did you come to me to borrow money? Uncle Tu bowed his head even lower, his knuckles turning white from clenching his fists too tightly. The studio was having a hard time lately. Everyone was suffering. My father fell and needed surgery. I borrowed money everywhere but still lacked it. Only 30 million. You know my ability. I will definitely find a new job soon and pay you back as soon as I get paid. I thought for a moment, then remembered that something similar had happened in my previous life. It was just that I didn't withdraw the capital suddenly, nor did I take action after my salary, so Uncle Tu still received his bonus and salary, and wasn't under as much pressure as he was now. At that time, personal lending platforms weren't popular yet, so he must have come to me out of desperation. Where's Tu Thin? Even if he paid me, there must be some left over, not even 30 million. After all, I just heard from the supervisor that he brought a lot of gifts to Lam Noyet's house recently. Uncle Tu did not reply, but his gloomy and angry eyes said it all. I understand. Tu Thin is a narrow-minded person. After being reborn, it would be too much if he didn't immediately kick Uncle Tu out. Give him money? Never. Like others who did not know about the previous life, they only saw Tu Thin as cold and unwilling to help his close brother of many years. Tight, this was truly a great opportunity to push him one step further. I pretended to think for a moment, then replied, okay. Uncle Tu's eyes lit up. Before I could say thank you, I continued. I can also recommend a job for you. The benefits are good and the boss is easygoing. If you pass the interview, you might even get an advance salary. The company I mentioned was Tu Thin's biggest rival in my previous life. I had established a relationship with them in order to break his contract. As for the people in this studio, regardless of their character and ability, they are all not bad. If I introduce them to them, they will definitely accept me. I looked at Uncle Tu. The implication was clear. You guys can all try. Uncle Tu understood what I meant and nodded solemnly. Thank you, Lin. I will ask the others if anyone wants to go with me. Uncle Tu acted very quickly. Only a week later he reported the results to me. The results were extremely positive. He even convinced 2 more people to jump ship with him. Tu Thin must still be wondering why, after being reborn, his life is worse than his previous life. He knows a lot of things, but he is currently only the owner of a small studio, and his status is not enough to approach the cooperative relationships from his previous life. However, if he were to seriously start working again from the beginning, it is not certain that he would not be able to return to his previous life's position. What I need to do is not let him work in peace. Because of the staff leaving and the sharp decrease in work, Tu Thin's studio is on the verge of collapse. At this point, he doesn't even have time to care about Lam Noyet, let alone her family. I hired a few middle-aged women to walk around the apartment complex near Lam Noyet's house, occasionally chatting about the kids' work, and deliberately mentioning Tu Thin's studio several times. After a few days of fishing, Lam Noyet's parents finally took the bait. When they took the initiative to ask, I skillfully led them on and added salt and pepper to tell them a bunch of insider information. The final conclusion was that Tu Thin's studio was about to collapse. He was on the verge of bankruptcy. Actually, the situation had not reached that level, but Lam Noyet's parents did not know. They did not dare to ask Tu Thin directly, they just secretly spread the news. And what they heard was, the studio was in debt. The creditors brought a group of people to collect the money. The proof was that I hired bodyguards to block the door. The revenue was not enough to cover the expenses. The employees kept quitting. The proof was that Uncle Tu and several others left. The studio was in a serious crisis. Tu Thin was lying. The evidence was that recently, he had been cold towards Lam Noyet and her family. That evidence, combined with the unintentional words of those with ulterior motives, made Lam Noyet's parents start to think about telling their daughter to break up with Tu Thin. That's all for now. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more great stories. Goodbye and see you again.